The sea has always been a stage, vast and eternal, carrying whispers older than memory. Beneath its waves, secrets sleep, waiting for those who dare to listen with open hearts. Tonight, we sail not on waters of maps, but across tides of myth and quiet revelation. In the deep blue silence, there is a presence, steady and watching, unseen yet undeniable. He is Poseidon, lord of the sea, guardian of balance, keeper of ocean's breath. He does not roar for vengeance, nor strike blindly with fury or hate. Instead, he listens. He weighs, he measures the spirit of every ship that passes. For the sea remembers what men forget, that every journey carries truth within. Ships are not only wood and sail, but living mirrors of the choices of their crew. A vessel of pride sails differently than a vessel of kindness, and the waters respond. In Poseidon's realm, storms are lessons, calms are gifts, and currents are judgments. Every voyage is a story, and every story is heard, whether whispered or sung. So lean closer to the tide and hear what the waves have carried through time. This is the tale of Poseidon's judgment of ships, told in salt, wind, and stars. The waves speak softly when the night is calm, their voices hidden in the silver glow of the moon. Each ripple is a word, each tide a sentence, and together they weave the oldest story of the sea. Sailors have long believed that the ocean carries memory, holding every laugh, prayer, and farewell. When a ship sails, it does not move alone, for the water listens and whispers back in unseen ways. The first judgment is not made with thunder or storm, but with the quiet turning of the tide. Poseidon begins not with anger, but with silence. For silence reveals the heart of a vessel. Listen closely, and you may hear the hush between waves, a pause that weighs the soul of a crew. For every ship holds more than cargo, more than sails, more than ropes pulled by weary hands. It holds intention, and the ocean is a mirror that reflects what lies within human desire. The whispering waves carry no malice, but they remember the tone of songs sung on deck. They remember if laughter rose from kindness or if shouts were sharpened by cruelty and pride. The sea does not forget the gentle hand that poured water for a thirsty stranger in the dark, nor does it ignore the greedy heart that hoarded food while others starved beside him. So the waves tell Poseidon, like messengers, of what they have seen and heard without bias. His judgment begins with listening, patient and vast, like the horizon itself unbroken and endless. Imagine standing on a quiet shore at dusk, the sky melting into colors, the water breathing slow. You hear the murmur of the tide, and though it seems simple, it carries voices beyond time. They are the voices of ships long gone, their planks rotted, their names forgotten by men. Yet in the sea, nothing is lost, for the memory of journeys is stitched into its endless fabric. The whispering waves become storytellers, not of glory or conquest, but of truth unpolished. They tell of prideful vessels whose captains demanded obedience from the sea itself. They tell of humble rafts guided by hope, where unity was stronger than the pull of the storm. The judgment is never sudden, never cruel, but it is always just, always balanced and true. When a ship approaches, Poseidon leans upon the sound of the water to measure its soul. The tide grows steady if the crew has lived in respect, their hearts aligned with the rhythm of nature. But if arrogance rides the mast, the currents shift uneasily, warning of lessons yet to come. The whispering waves do not scold. They simply remind that the sea cannot be commanded. It can only be honored, and in honoring, one finds safe passage across its endless roads. There is an ancient calm in this, a quiet truth that outlives captains and kingdoms alike. Ships that listen to the hush of the waves learn not only to survive, but to belong. And belonging is the secret gift Poseidon grants, a harmony with water and sky eternal. So as the first chapter unfolds, remember the sound you cannot quite name at night. The low murmur, the distant sigh, the gentle pull and retreat of waves upon the shore. That is not mere water moving. That is judgment speaking, ancient and wise. It asks not for fear nor for worship, but for recognition of the bond between ship and sea. For in the whispering waves, every voyage begins, every truth is measured, and every soul is seen. The story of Poseidon's judgment does not begin with storms or shipwrecks. It begins with silence, with listening, with the eternal voice of the ocean that never forgets. And in that voice, the fate of every ship is softly written long before its sails rise. The ship of pride was born from hands that believed wood and iron could master the sea itself. Its builders carved figures of power on the prow, as if Poseidon would bow before their craft. Every nail struck into its frame echoed with confidence, too sharp, too bright to carry humility. The harbor cheered as it set sail, banners flying, voices raised in praise of human achievement. The captain stood tall, declaring that no storm would dare rise against such a mighty vessel. The crew repeated his words, their hearts swelling with the certainty of their commander's pride. But the sea did not cheer, nor did the waves lift in applause, for the ocean is older than pride. It watched in silence, its surface calm, its voice quiet, its memory endless and deep. At first, the voyage seemed blessed, with winds steady and skies painted in perfect blue. The ship raced across the waters, swift as a bird, leaving trails of white foam in its wake. The crew laughed loudly, boasting that even Poseidon himself could not slow their journey. Yet beneath the surface, the sea measured their words, listening to each careless shout. The whispering waves carried the own story to the god, who heard without anger, but with patience. Pride, he knew, was not evil, but it was fragile, and fragile things must learn their place. On the third night, the wind fell silent, leaving the sails hanging heavy without breath. The proud ship floated still, surrounded by stars, yet unable to move upon the vast waters. The captain cursed the calm, demanding the ocean return the winds that belonged to him. But the ocean gives nothing on command, for it belongs to no man, however proud or strong. Days passed, and the crew grew restless, their songs fading into whispers of doubt. Their food remained, their ship strong, yet something greater was missing. The gift of motion. They learned that a vessel without humility is like a sail without wind, powerless and still. At last, the sea stirred again, gently like a teacher guiding a child who had stumbled. The winds returned, soft at first, enough to fill the sails and carry the ship onward. The captain stood silent, his earlier boasts forgotten, his eyes turned toward the horizon. He understood then that the ocean could not be conquered, only respected, only shared. The crew, too, learned to lower their voices, their laughter turning from pride to gratitude. The proud ship sailed on, but now with quieter songs, its spirit softened by the lesson. Poseidon did not punish them with storm or a wreck, for judgment is not always destruction. Instead, he gave them stillness, a mirror in time, so they could see the truth within themselves. For the greatest storms are not thunder and waves, but silence that forces the heart to listen. When the ship returned to port, it was still tall, still shining, but somehow humbler in stance. Its banners no longer shouted, but flowed quietly in the breeze, as if bowing to the sky. The captain never again claimed mastery of the sea, but spoke instead of partnership with it. And the crew carried stories not of triumph, but of a calm so deep it reshaped their souls. The ship of pride had been judged, not broken, but reminded of the weight of humility. Poseidon's voice had been silence, his lesson written not in storms, but in waiting. And the ocean, eternal and patient, had shown once more that pride is only a shadow on water. For the sea is vast, and ships are small, and every voyage is measured against eternity. Thus ends the tale of the ship of pride, not lost, but changed, a vessel reborn in truth. The ship of greed set sail heavy with treasure, its decks stacked with chests of gold and silver. Merchants boasted that no vessel had ever carried such wealth across the wide, waiting ocean. The captain's eyes gleamed brighter than the sun on the waves, for he saw only profit ahead. The crew whispered of riches, each man dreaming of what he would claim when the journey ended. But the sea, vast and endless, does not bend to gold, nor does it hunger for silver or gems. Poseidon listened as greed filled the ship, not with laughter or kindness, but with restless desire. The sails strained with weight, as if the wind itself hesitated to carry such a burdened heart. At first, the voyage seemed smooth, as though fortune smiled on the ship and its proud cargo. The merchants clinked coins in their hands, counting what was already theirs in eager minds. But beneath the calm surface, the waves whispered, carrying the truth to the god of the sea. They told of hoarded water, locked away while thirsty sailors begged for a single cup. They told of food rationed unfairly, saved for the captain while the crew grew thin and tired. The ocean listened to every act, every decision made under the shadow of endless greed. On the seventh day, the sky dimmed, though no storm rose, only a strange and heavy stillness. The crew grew uneasy, for the horizon blurred, and no star appeared to guide them. Their treasures shone in the dark, but no gold could light the way or calm their fears. The captain shouted that fortune was with them, but his voice cracked with doubt and worry. The sea responded with shifting currents, subtle at first, leading the ship in circles unseen. Days turned to nights, and the crew realized they were sailing, yet arriving nowhere at all. The chests of treasure weighed heavier, though their wood had not changed, only the hearts that held them. Poseidon's judgment was not storm or fury, but confusion, a mirror of their endless hunger. For greed is a tide that never rests, pulling men forward without end, without destination. The crew began to quarrel, voices rising as each man feared losing his promised wealth. They clutched their coins, yet coins did not feed them, nor fill their lungs with needed air. At last, a young sailor cast a coin into the sea, his hands trembling as it sank below. The waves rippled gently as if acknowledging the gesture, a small surrender to balance. Others followed, throwing silver, gold, and gems into the deep, one handful at a time. The merchants wailed, their riches slipping away. But the crew felt the air grow lighter. The winds returned, the stars broke through the heavy sky, and the ship found its course again. They sailed onward, their treasure gone, yet their spirits strangely unburdened and free. The captain lowered his head, realizing the sea had shown them that wealth was weight, not power. When they reached the shore, their chests were empty, but their hearts carried a deeper lesson. For Poseidon had judged them not with waves that shattered wood, but with a mirror of their greed. He had shown them that treasure cannot steer a ship, nor can gold command the stars. The ship of greed arrived humbled, its tale told not in riches, but in release. And the ocean, eternal and patient, carried the memory of another lesson written in tide. Thus the sea reminds us still that what is hoarded is heavy, and what is shared becomes light. For in the eyes of Poseidon, the worth of a voyage is measured not by gold, but by the soul. The ship of kindness was small, its sails patched, its deck worn, yet its heart brighter than gold. The crew was not rich, nor strong in numbers, but they carried a spirit of care for one another. Each day they shared bread, breaking even the smallest piece, so no sailor would go hungry at sea. When water ran low, the captain drank last, giving the first cup to the youngest of the crew. Their laughter was gentle, not sharp, and their voices carried warmth that the waves remembered. The sea listened, and Poseidon felt the rhythm of their voyage like a song in the tides. Though storms brewed on distant horizons, the skies above them remained calm and forgiving. At night, stars seemed to gather closer, guiding their sails with a silver path across the water. Other ships they met told stories of scarcity, but the kindness crew offered food without demand. They gave water to strangers, and in return received smiles, gratitude, and unspoken blessings. The ocean took note, for the sea honors balance, and kindness restores what greed corrodes. Even when winds grew wild, the sails of the kindness ship bent but did not break. The crew sang together, voices rising in harmony, weaving courage into the night air. The youngest sailor, once weak and afraid, grew strong because he was never left behind. The oldest sailor, his hands stiff with age, found peace knowing others worked by his side. Kindness was their treasure, though no chest held it, and no ledger measured it in coins. It lived in their choices, and the waves carried those choices to the ears of Poseidon. He listened, not with judgment of storm, but with blessing, wrapping their path in calm waters. The ship often found safe harbors when storms threatened, as if the sea itself sheltered them. Fish gathered near their nets, offering food, and gulls circled to show the way to land. The crew did not boast, nor claim mastery, but gave thanks to the sea for each gentle gift. When passing a sinking boat, they pulled strangers aboard, giving blankets, food, and a place to rest. No one was left to drift alone, for the ship of kindness knew that all journeys belong together. Poseidon's judgment came not as trial, but as favor, a reward for their compassion at sea. The waters shimmered under moonlight, like silver threads weaving safety around their fragile craft. Even the storms that touched them passed quickly, their fury softened by unseen hands. The captain often stood at the bow, whispering thanks to the waves for their endless patience. He told his men that the ocean was not conquered, but befriended through acts of kindness. The crew believed it, for they felt the sea answer in calm tides and steady winds. Their journey became a living story, carried by sailors from one port to another in awe. They were remembered not for wealth, nor for conquest, but for generosity and gentleness. When they finally returned home, their ship looked the same, small and humble as before. Yet it carried more than any grand vessel of treasure, for it carried blessings of the sea. Children gathered to hear their tales, learning that kindness could calm even the harshest tide. Old men nodded with tears, for they knew such truth was rare, yet eternal in its strength. Poseidon smiled in silence, his waves still whispering of their deeds long after they were gone. For ships of kindness are rare, but they shine like stars on the ocean's eternal night sky. The ship of kindness became legend, not because of size, but because of the light it carried. Its story is sung in winds, traced in tides, and remembered by the sea without end. For the ocean, vast and ancient, treasures kindness above all, for it heals the heart of the world. The ship of exploration was built not for war nor wealth, but for the promise of horizons unseen. Its crew was a mix of dreamers, mapmakers, and sailors who longed to sail beyond the edge of known seas. They carried no chest of treasure, only compasses, charts, and hope that the ocean held wonders untold. From the first day, their journey was marked by curiosity rather than fear, by wonder rather than greed. The waves seemed to welcome them, lifting the ship gently as if guiding them toward hidden paths. Poseidon watched with quiet interest, for he respects those who seek knowledge with humble hearts. The crew leaned over rails to marvel at glowing fish, their bodies shining like lanterns in the dark. They followed the songs of whales, deep and resonant, as though the sea itself offered guidance. Each sunrise brought skies painted in colors they had never seen, hues beyond familiar shores. At night, new constellations appeared, unknown to their charts, stars speaking in silent language. The ship sailed into waters so clear they could see the ocean floor, forests of coral rising below. Strange birds circled above, their cries unfamiliar, calling them further into uncharted spaces. There was no fear, only awe, for the crew felt chosen to witness what others had never imagined. The captain kept no schedule, trusting the sea to reveal its secrets in its own patient time. When storms appeared, they did not curse, but studied the shifting winds and patterns of waves. Every hardship became lesson, every delay a doorway to new discovery and deeper respect. One night, they found an island not drawn on any map, its sands glowing like pearls in moonlight. They stepped ashore, and the land welcomed them with fruit, fresh water, and gentle breezes. The crew gave thanks, not in shouts, but in quiet gratitude, knowing they were guests, not owners. Poseidon listened, and the sea smiled, for explorers who respect the world are never unwelcome. As days turned to weeks, they collected no riches, only stories, sketches, and memories. They learned the songs of distant currents, how each wave carried a rhythm of its own. They traced the flight of seabirds and the blooming of seaweed, noting signs of the ocean's clock. Knowledge became their cargo, and their hearts grew wide, filled with reverence for the unknown. When they crossed waters veiled in mist, they did not fear, for they trusted the sea to guide them. The fog lifted to reveal a horizon where the ocean seemed to meet the heavens in endless union. The crew fell silent, humbled by the grandeur, knowing they were part of something eternal. Their ship was small, yet it felt mighty, for it carried not gold, but the light of discovery itself. Even when provisions thinned, the sea answered with schools of fish, gifts to sustain their voyage. It seemed as though Poseidon himself guided their nets, ensuring their journey could continue. The crew began to understand that exploration was not conquering, but listening with open eyes. The ocean gave not all its secrets, but just enough, like a teacher offering pieces of wisdom. And each gift carried a lesson: patience, humility, and wonder at the vastness of creation. When at last they turned homeward, their ship carried no treasure. Yet it was richer than any vessel. The men spoke of lands unseen, stars uncharted, and waters that glowed like liquid fire. They told stories of whales that sang, of skies painted with strange and holy colors. In their eyes shone the truth that to explore is to be reborn, touched by the wonder of the world. The ship of exploration returned not as a conqueror, but as a herald of beauty beyond measure. Poseidon's judgment was clear. Those who seek with respect are granted paths into mystery. For the sea offers itself not to pride nor to greed, but to those who wonder and listen deeply. Thus the ship of exploration became a legend, its tale told wherever sailors dream of the horizon. The ship of pride was unlike the others. Tall and shining, its sails white as ivory and its hull carved in gold. The crew walked with shoulders high, believing themselves chosen above all others upon the sea. Every port they entered was met with songs of their glory, yet the songs were sung by themselves alone. They carried mirrors polished bright, gazing at their own reflections more than at the stars above. The captain wore a crown of silver, declaring himself master of waves, wind, and destiny itself. Poseidon watched in silence, his gaze steady, knowing the sea cannot be owned by vanity. The ship moved swiftly, cutting through waters, but not with harmony, with arrogance in every turn. Sailors on other vessels whispered of their pride, wondering if the sea would test their certainty. The crew rarely shared food or drink, for they believed generosity would weaken their greatness. When storms appeared, they cursed the skies, claiming the heavens should bow before their ship. The waves grew restless, for the sea listens, and pride spoken aloud stirs currents into reply. The stars too seemed distant, their guiding lights fading from charts as the crew grew blind. They laughed at warnings from fishermen, claiming knowledge too small for their noble voyage. Each success they claimed as proof of destiny, not as gift, forgetting the balance of the ocean. Poseidon let them sail far, granting them calm waters, but silence grew heavy on their path. The sea did not sing for them, nor did dolphins dance before their bow, only stillness remained. The crew did not notice, for they were too busy praising their own reflections in polished steel. One night, under a moonless sky, the wind stopped, leaving the ship adrift upon a silent sea. The crew grew restless, but the captain declared it proof that even winds paused for their greatness. Days passed without current, without breeze, as if the ocean held its breath in quiet judgment. The food began to spoil, the water grew stale, but the crew still refused to share among themselves. They fought in whispers, not of fists, but of blame, each believing others unworthy of their rank. Poseidon did not send waves nor storms, only stillness, the heaviest weight upon a proud heart. The silence became louder than thunder, pressing upon the crew until they longed for humility. But pride held them, like chains unseen, and they refused to bow even to the vastness of the sea. The youngest sailor whispered prayers at night, asking the ocean for forgiveness, but in secret. He alone felt the weight of stars returning, faint glimmers above, unseen by those who would not look. Poseidon watched the boy, noting the seed of humility within him, a spark against the prideful dark. The sea waited, patient, teaching through silence that arrogance cannot command the tides. At last, after many weeks, a breeze returned, small and gentle, barely stirring the ship's sails. The captain called it victory, but the boy knew it as mercy, a gift undeserved yet freely given. The ship limped back to port, not in triumph, but in shadows, its crew thin and weary. Yet they told no tale of lesson, for pride cannot admit weakness, even when carved by silence. But the boy carried the truth, whispering it to others, that the sea bows to no crown of men. Poseidon's judgment was not thunder nor storm, but stillness, a mirror showing their emptiness. The ship of pride became a caution, its name spoken softly, a reminder of arrogance adrift. For the sea is eternal, vast, and patient, and pride fades like echoes lost upon endless waters. The ship of greed gleamed with riches, its hold heavy with gold jewels, and silks stolen from distant ports. The crew measured worth not in friendships or trust, but in coins stacked high and gems that glittered. Every decision was made by counting profit. Even the winds seemed bought in their arrogant songs. The captain's eyes burned with hunger for more, never enough, always seeking another shore to strip. They sailed past hungry villages without pause, trading not food but promises wrapped in lies. The ocean listened, uneasy. For greed poisons balance, drawing storms like sparks draw flame. Poseidon watched, patient, knowing the sea always claims what is taken without respect. The crew fought over spoils, their laughter sharp, their feasts wasteful while water barrels ran dry. They ignored warnings from elders, saying the sea remembers greed more than gold ever could. One night, they dropped anchor near an isle rich with pearl and coral, tearing at the seabed. The waters dimmed, fish fled, and silence spread, for the ocean mourned the wound inflicted. The crew cheered at their harvest, blind to the absence of songs from gulls and dolphins nearby. The captain drank from a goblet of silver, claiming he would outshine the very stars above. But the stars dimmed, veiled by heavy clouds, and the sea below churned with unseen sorrow. The ship of greed pressed on, its belly full, yet its spirit empty, hollow as the jewels it carried. At night, dreams haunted the sailors, visions of drowning gold dragging them into the deep. They awoke sweating, clutching coins, yet unwilling to cast aside their heavy obsession. The winds grew fickle, currents strange, leading them in circles as if the sea refused their path. Still they demanded more, each port plundered, each wave crossed with restless hunger. Poseidon remained silent, letting their greed coil tighter until it weighed heavier than chains. Then came the day the ship found waters still as glass. No fish, no breeze, only endless silence. The crew grew restless, their gold piled useless, for no jewel could buy water or summon wind. Their feasts rotted, their cups turned bitter, yet still they clung to treasure with trembling hands. The captain raged, tossing charts, demanding the sea surrender, deaf to the truth before him. But the ocean does not bend to greed. It reflects the hunger back until men consume themselves. One sailor, weary, cast his coin into the sea, whispering forgiveness to the waves in despair. The ocean stirred, faint ripples spreading, as if answering the single spark of surrender. Others followed, reluctantly, coins tossed one by one, jewels slipping into the dark below. The ship grew lighter, though the crew wept, clinging to the wealth that had chained their souls. The youngest threw all he had, crying that life weighed more than gold, more than glittering lies. Poseidon heard, and the sea shifted, sending a current that nudged their ship toward safe waters. But the captain refused, clutching his chest of gold, swearing he would never bow to the ocean. He locked himself in the cabin, surrounded by treasure, blind to the salvation passing by. The crew, freed of their greed, steered the ship away, whispering thanks for mercy undeserved. Behind them, silence closed around the captain's chamber, his fate sealed by his own hunger. The ship of greed returned home with empty holds, but hearts heavy with lessons of the sea. They spoke softly of Poseidon's judgment, that wealth is no shield against hunger or thirst. Their story spread across ports, teaching sailors that treasure without balance is only curse. The ocean kept the captain's gold, not as spoils, but as warning hidden deep within the abyss. Poseidon's judgment was not fury nor storm, but truth, that greed consumes itself, always. The ship of greed became legend, whispered not with envy, but as a caution to all who listen. The ship of hope was born from struggle, its wood patched from many storms, yet its spirit stronger than steel. The crew came from broken shores, places scarred by famine, fire, and the weight of endless hardship. They carried little, only faith that the ocean would guide them toward a brighter tomorrow. Their sails were thin, their ropes frayed, but their voices rose each dawn with songs of courage. Every sunrise felt like a promise, every horizon like a doorway to a future yet unseen. Poseidon watched, and the sea stirred gently, curious at their unwavering belief in hope. They did not deny fear, for nights were long and waters deep, yet they chose to keep moving. When storms rolled, they prayed not for escape, but for strength to hold together until calm returned. The smallest child on board clutched a wooden toy, a reminder that joy survives even in hardship. The elders told stories by lantern light, weaving hope into words that carried through the dark. Their food was scarce, but each meal was shared equally. No one left hungry, no one forgotten. The sea took pity, sending schools of fish near, as if answering their silent calls for mercy. Even gulls circled closer, guiding them to shorelines where fresh water flowed clear and free. The crew gave thanks in whispers, never boasting, for they knew survival was not conquest. They understood the sea was not enemy, but a teacher, shaping them through trial and grace. Days grew long, yet they pressed forward, steering by stars and the rhythm of the waves. When despair tried to take root, the youngest laughed, chasing gulls across the deck in joy. His laughter reminded them that hope is not grand, but small, fragile, and yet unbreakable. Poseidon felt their song reach his depths, a melody woven not of pride, but of resilience. He held back storms that might have shattered them, letting winds guide their fragile sails. The crew learned to trust not only in wood and rope, but in one another, their greatest anchor. When one faltered, others lifted him, for they knew their strength was found in unity. Each night the stars seemed brighter, as though the heavens themselves willed them onward. At last they saw a new land, its hills green, its rivers shining, a place untouched by sorrow. Tears filled their eyes, for the promise of tomorrow had taken shape beyond the endless horizon. They knelt upon the sand, not as conquerors, but as survivors, grateful for mercy granted. The child dropped his toy, chasing waves. His laughter carried far, blessing the new beginning. Poseidon watched, and his judgment was gentle, for hope had proven stronger than despair. The ship of hope was remembered not for riches, but for showing that faith endures all storms. Sailors told its story in hushed tones, saying the sea bends for those who carry hope within. Generations later, the tale lived on, teaching that no storm can drown the light of tomorrow. The ship itself weathered, its wood scattered, but its spirit lived in the hearts of many. For hope is a vessel no wave can sink, no darkness can claim, no despair can silence. The ocean still carries echoes of their journey, waves whispering courage to those who listen. Poseidon's judgment was clear. Hope is the tide that rises, even when all else is lost. The ship of hope became legend, not for its sails, but for the unshakable hearts it carried. The ship of pride sailed with banners high, its sails dyed crimson, its hull polished to a perfect shine. Its captain stood tall, boasting that no wave, no storm, no god could humble his mighty vessel. The crew mirrored his arrogance, walking the deck with heads held high and laughter sharp as steel. Every port they entered, they demanded praise, expecting songs sung of their greatness and power. They cared less for trade or kindness, only that their names echoed louder than the wind itself. Poseidon listened, his gaze heavy, for pride untempered often bends until it breaks in silence. The ship glided over calm seas, and the captain boasted it was his will that stilled the waters. When storms parted, he claimed it was his command that tamed the lightning and the thunder. His crew cheered, blind to truth, their hearts swollen with the same emptiness as his words. At night they lit torches, shouting their names into the darkness, demanding the stars bow low. The heavens answered not, but the silence was lost upon ears deafened by their own praise. One morning, they found the sea a mirror. Sky reflected so perfectly, it seemed without end. The captain smiled, declaring the ocean itself honored him by granting such flawless stillness. But the crew grew restless, for no wind filled their sails, no current pushed them onward. Days passed, the food spoiled, water grew scarce, yet the captain still boasted of control. He ordered the men to sing louder, to prove their pride stronger than thirst and hunger. Their voices cracked, their bodies weakened, but still they raised empty chants to hollow skies. Poseidon remained patient, letting pride weigh heavier than chains upon their withering souls. At last, a single sailor broke, whispering a prayer not to the captain, but to the sea. He asked not for riches nor glory, only for a drop of rain, a gust of wind, a sign. The ocean stirred, faint ripples lapping, yet the captain silenced him with mocking laughter. "No god rules me," he cried. "I command the sea, the wind, the stars, all bend to my will." But the sea does not bend. It reflects the truth hidden behind pride's blinding mask. The mirror waters deepened, showing not sky, but shadows, endless and waiting below. The crew fell quiet, staring into their reflections, faces drawn and hollow with shame. They saw their arrogance laid bare. Pride turned brittle under the weight of reality. The captain alone refused to see, shouting his name until it cracked, echoing into silence. One by one, the crew knelt, pressing palms to the deck, whispering apologies to the sea. Their surrender softened the waters, a breeze stirring, carrying faint salt upon the air. Yet the captain remained standing, fists clenched, claiming he would never bow to gods or sea. The ship groaned, wood straining, sails trembling, as if the ocean itself rejected his defiance. A wave rose, not in fury, but in quiet inevitability, washing over the proud man's cries. The crew, humbled, lifted their faces to the breeze, grateful for the mercy they did not deserve. The ship drifted once more, guided by currents gentle, steady, as Poseidon watched in silence. They reached safe shores, stepping onto land with heads bowed, no songs sung, no banners raised. The ship of pride was remembered not for glory, but for the lesson carved into every tale. Sailors whispered that pride deafens the heart, but humility opens it to the voice of the sea. Generations later, the story endured, a warning that arrogance blinds until nothing remains. The ocean does not rage at pride, it simply reflects it, until men drown in their own echoes. Poseidon's judgment was neither wrath nor roar, but stillness, the mirror none can escape. The ship of pride sailed into legend, not as triumph, but as truth. Pride sinks without need of storm. The ship of unity was unlike any other, built not by one people but by many hands across distant shores. Its wood came from varied forests, its sails woven from different looms, stitched with colors of every land. The crew spoke in many tongues, yet found harmony in laughter, in song, in the rhythm of the sea. They were bound not by blood, but by choice, a family forged of trust, stronger than iron or rope. Each man and woman brought skills unique, from fishing to crafting, from healing to guiding by stars. No voice was louder than another, no task too small, all shared in labor and in rest alike. Poseidon watched, intrigued, for unity was rare upon the waters where pride and greed often ruled. Their ship glided smoothly, for many hands steered as one, every sail trimmed with perfect care. When storms came, they stood together. Ropes passed swiftly, words of courage bridging every tongue. No quarrel divided them, for they knew survival was not for one, but for all who lived as crew. They honored the sea with offerings of bread and song, not as conquest, but as gratitude. Fish seemed to leap willingly into nets. Breezes came steady, and stars guided their course true. The youngest learned from the oldest, and the oldest smiled at the energy of the youngest. Every shore they touched, they left not scars, but gifts, sharing knowledge and trading with fairness. The people of ports welcomed them warmly, for their ship carried friendship more than goods. Poseidon stirred the waters gently, testing them with currents shifting, winds turning sharp. Yet they answered not with fear, but with hands joined, steering together as if one heartbeat. Their unity sang across the waves, a music the sea itself echoed in ripples of calm. They weathered hunger with shared meals, thirst with shared drops. No one left alone in need. When one faltered, others lifted. When one despaired, others reminded of the greater whole. The ship grew not weaker with age, but stronger, its spirit renewed with each act of trust. One night, the sea tested them hardest, waves rising high, stars hidden, winds howling fierce. They tied themselves together with rope, refusing to let any soul be lost to the raging waters. Each hand gripped another, each voice shouting courage, until the storm passed into silence. They emerged battered but unbroken, their unity brighter than any flame upon the deck. Poseidon smiled beneath the waves, for he had seen no greed, no pride, only harmony enduring. He judged them not with punishment, but with blessing, currents guiding them to new horizons. The ship of unity reached a distant land unknown, where rivers glistened and fields shone green. The people there welcomed them, seeing no threat, only kinship in their joined hands and hearts. They built homes upon that shore, not as conquerors, but as neighbors, weaving lives together. Their ship rested in the harbor, a symbol of what many can achieve when bound as one. Stories of their journey spread, told as proof that unity can tame even the wildest seas. Sailors whispered their tale, saying Poseidon favored those who sailed not for self, but for all. Generations later, the ship's wood still stood, preserved, visited as a monument of harmony. Children ran across its deck, hearing stories of courage, laughter, and the strength of many. The ocean still whispers their song, waves carrying echoes of voices joined in trust. Poseidon's judgment was clear. Unity is the greatest anchor, stronger than storm or tide. The ship of unity became legend, not for wealth, not for conquest, but for proving hearts as one. The ship of unity was unlike any other, built not by one people but by many hands across distant shores. Its wood came from varied forests, its sails woven from different looms, stitched with colors of every land. The crew spoke in many tongues, yet found harmony in laughter, in song, in the rhythm of the sea. They were bound not by blood, but by choice, a family forged of trust, stronger than iron or rope. Each man and woman brought skills unique, from fishing to crafting, from healing to guiding by stars. No voice was louder than another, no task too small, all shared in labor and in rest alike. Poseidon watched, intrigued, For unity was rare upon the waters where pride and greed often ruled. Their ship glided smoothly, for many hands steered as one, every sail trimmed with perfect care. When storms came, they stood together, ropes passed swiftly, words of courage bridging every tongue. No quarrel divided them, for they knew survival was not for one, but for all who lived as crew. They honored the sea with offerings of bread and song, not as conquest, but as gratitude. Fish seemed to leap willingly into nets. Breezes came steady, and stars guided their course true. The youngest learned from the oldest, and the oldest smiled at the energy of the youngest. Every shore they touched, they left not scars, but gifts, sharing knowledge and trading with fairness. The people of ports welcomed them warmly, for their ship carried friendship more than goods. Poseidon stirred the waters gently, testing them with currents shifting, winds turning sharp. Yet they answered not with fear, but with hands joined, steering together as if one heartbeat. Their unity sang across the waves, a music the sea itself echoed in ripples of calm. They weathered hunger with shared meals, thirst with shared drops, no one left alone in need. When one faltered, others lifted. When one despaired, others reminded of the greater whole. The ship grew not weaker with age, but stronger, its spirit renewed with each act of trust. One night, the sea tested them hardest, waves rising high, stars hidden, winds howling fierce. They tied themselves together with rope, refusing to let any soul be lost to the raging waters. Each hand gripped another, each voice shouting courage, until the storm passed into silence. They emerged battered but unbroken, their unity brighter than any flame upon the deck. Poseidon smiled beneath the waves, for he had seen no greed, no pride, only harmony enduring. He judged them not with punishment, but with blessing, currents guiding them to new horizons. The ship of unity reached a distant land unknown, where rivers glistened and fields shone green. The people there welcomed them, seeing no threat, only kinship in their joined hands and hearts. They built homes upon that shore, not as conquerors, but as neighbors, weaving lives together. Their ship rested in the harbor, a symbol of what many can achieve when bound as one. Stories of their journey spread, told as proof that unity can tame even the wildest seas. Sailors whispered their tale, saying Poseidon favored those who sailed not for self, but for all. Generations later, the ship's wood still stood, preserved, visited as a monument of harmony. Children ran across its deck, hearing stories of courage, laughter, and the strength of many. The ocean still whispers their song, waves carrying echoes of voices joined in trust. Poseidon's judgment was clear. Unity is the greatest anchor, stronger than storm or tide. The ship of unity became legend, not for wealth, not for conquest, but for proving hearts as one.